Welcome back to Man vs. Meeple, the show where we talk about all things board game related. Today we're here to talk about a game called Orsum from One Free Elephant. This is a game that's just on Kickstarter right now.
Yeah.
It's a nice little family game about mining gold, silver, and ore, and trying to make as much money as you can with it.
Yeah, so players at the beginning of the game will set up the mine, and it's a 5x5 grid of tiles, and each of the corners will represent one of the possibly 4 players that are playing, and then each player will have a special tile that's integrated into the board where it gives them some special mining abilities, right?
Yeah, and the trick there is that the other players are the ones that place those, so you're not going to be able to place your own tile in a nice location for yourself.
When the board is set up, all the rail lines have to make sense, so if there's any that don't, you just redraw a new tile and put it in and arrange it as such. Now, each of the tiles or each of the carts for each of the players will hold ore. Right. And there's copper, there's silver, and there's gold, and they're each represented by different dollar amounts that you can sell them back to the 2 contractors for.
Yeah, there's 2 contractors, then there's the bank. Mm-hmm. So the way the game structure works is on your turn, you're going to be doing the move phase first. Mm-hmm. And we've got the beginning of the game set up here, but in mid-game, the mining carts are going to be all over the place with various amounts of ore in them.
Right.
But the very first thing you do is you move the contractors, and we've got Ma Cortland and Baron Pierce here. Mm-hmm. Ma Cortland, and she has a stack of contracts, and so does Baron. Mm-hmm. She's going to move towards the cart with the fewest pieces of ore in it.
Right.
Conversely, Baron Pierce is going to go towards the cart that has the most.
Right.
So once that's done, in player turn order, everyone's going to do their move phase. Mm-hmm. Simply roll a die.
Yeah.
And then you're going to move up to that many amount of spaces from your current location. Now, there's some key elements to the movement here. Right. You can't just move from tile to tile. This is where you have to follow the tracks.
Right, that's right. Once you are done moving, and then in turn order, you're allowed to fulfill contracts, you're allowed to mine, or you're allowed to sell off ore.
Right.
Now, each of the players will start off with 5 cards. They'll start with 1 from each of the 2 contract agents, and then 3 of the action cards.
Right.
These are kind of the game-breaking cards in the game that allow you to manipulate your movement, or manipulate the way you sell, or even hurt other players at the table.
The action cards are pretty self-explanatory. They can be used at various phases of the game, even like Jeremy said, during movement. They can also, there's interrupt cards. There's ones that, the key thing to remember here is that when you play one of those cards, it's going to affect the player that's currently playing.
Right. So, on the turn again, when you move and you're allowed to collect ore, you're going to draw from the bag. It's a blind draw, and you're going to draw 2 ore pieces, and you have to place them into your cart. Now, if you are on the spot on the board that is your tile, your colored tile, you're allowed to draw 4 from the bag.
Right.
Now, when you drop them into your cart, anything that falls off the edge has to remain there.
Exactly.
So there's a little bit of mild dexterity in the game, too.
Yeah, almost. I wouldn't call it a dexterity game, but yes, if you stack up too much and you haven't fulfilled a contract or sold to the bank, you're going to have a big mountain of ore sitting out of your cart, which is very dangerous.
Right.
Because the other thing is, while you're placing it, you're in danger of dropping some. But also, when other players move, any ore, if you have ore that's over the top lip of your cart at all, if they hit you, or in the game it's called shunting, they get to take 1 piece of ore out and place it on the tile that they moved you from.
Right.
So there's a lot of sort of bumping around on this game to try to knock ore loose off of other carts so that you can pick it up, in addition to the digging.
Right.
So what's interesting is everyone does their move phase at once. You know, you go around the board and do moving. Then you go around the board and everyone does their mining. And like Jeremy said, you're digging. Everyone has to dig for sure. So you're getting either 2 or 4 pieces out, unless you use some game-breaking cards, which you can get as much as 8 if you play it right.
Yeah.
And then you can pick a piece of ore up off of the tile if there happens to be one. And then you can sell.
Yeah.
And when you sell, you are either selling to the bank or fulfilling a contract in your hand.
Yeah, and each of the ore pieces is worth a different amount. If you sell to the bank, copper is worth 1, gold is worth 3, and then silver is worth 2, and you're allowed to fulfill 1 contract, as you said.
Yeah.
And once that is done, you play 6 to 8 rounds, and the player that has the most money at the end of the game wins.
Exactly. That's all there is to it. Now, there are some interesting aspects that come into play. You'll see some components out here. And again, this is prototype form, so these aren't final components. But there's some wooden pieces here that represent rubble.
Right.
There are some cards in the game that allow you to either place or remove rubble.
Yeah.
Because you can actually sort of block people in. There are situations where you might not be able to move.
Right.
So you're going to use a card to remove rubble. I think you can use some of your movement points to do that as well.
And the rubble can also block your selling abilities to the agents as well, because the agents have to be a specific number of tiles away from you in a walking distance, and that can block them and make them go around the rubble and not reach your area.
Exactly. They can't just, there's no movement as the crow flies in this game. You're following the track. So you have to be within a certain distance to fulfill the contracts. And the contracts range from, like 3 gold or 2 gold and a silver or 5 gold, which are big, juicy contracts worth, like over $20.
But you are allowed to discard those cards. Say you drew something from one of the contract agents that had 5 gold and you're not mining the gold.
Right.
At the end of your turn, you're allowed to discard any number of the 5 cards that you didn't use from your hand and draw back up to 5 cards. In any combination of the cards, you could draw 5 action cards if you wanted, or you could draw 5 contract cards, however you wish to approach the game.
You can keep enough contract cards in your hand to make it so it's pretty possible to fulfill a contract at least every other turn if you can, unless someone's blocked you in. But the game has a lot of interesting little components at its basic level. It's just as we explained it. But like I said, there's rubble going on, so there's a little interaction.
Yeah.
There's an interesting component called Scraps, which is a dog that you can get from one of the cards, and he actually fits into the cart and into the front of the cart and actually protects your cart from people stealing from you, which is another action card.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little game breakers as well. Makes the game a little bit more interactive than it might sound in its basic rules.
And it's quick to play. Plays in about 45 to 60 minutes, and you're in and out and ready to play again. So, guys, that is Awesome from One Free Elephant.
Yes.
Interesting name. I don't know where they got that one from.
No, I know. And they're pretty new on the scene. I think this is their first game. They've already got one in the chamber ready to go in a few months as well.
Very cool.
But this one's on Kickstarter now, so check it out.
Make sure you guys subscribe to us, make comments below, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and everything else that we do here at Man vs. Meeple. And we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.